Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Dr. Gene Nemechek. He's a technical service veterinarian for Zoetis. Gene, it's great to see you.
Good to be here, Joe.
Porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, otherwise known as PED, first came on the scene about 5 years ago.
Right.
It's still with us. It seems like it's still pretty strong. What have we learned about this bug?
It has persisted in our systems here in the United States. We've had some success in some farms and systems eliminating it. Others have not been able to due to pig density and just production practices. So it's still around, it's still a risk, and so we haven't been able to get rid of it yet.
And my impression is that, there are some people that want to eliminate it, others want to prevent it, and others are just happy to live with it.
Well, and I think that's what we're seeing today, and some of that depends upon, I think, where producers are located and the pig density of areas. Some have been successful in eliminating from sow farms, but maybe not completely eliminating it from their farrow to finish systems. So there's always that risk of that virus is out there. You also have the risk of bringing it back from a packing plant if your trucks aren't clean. So the producers are going to have to try to decide whether they can eliminate it and keep it out of their farms, or maybe live with it through inoculation of gilts or through a vaccination program.
And it really requires a unified effort, doesn't it? Because if one farm is hell-bent on eliminating it and then the other one has decided they can live with it, they're not helping each other out.
Well, and that's kind of where we're at now within the industry, is to try to decide, I've heard some conversation about whether we can, as an industry, eliminate it, going back to like pseudorabies, where we eliminated it in the country. And then others think, well, that no, we can't eliminate it, and it's maybe because of where they're located in pig-dense areas. And so they have decided maybe they can live with it through maybe a process of inoculating gilts prior to entry into farms and vaccination within sow farms. So yeah, it is kind of one of those things that they have to try to decide what they can do within their own systems.
Let's talk about the different tools that are available for managing PED. I know we have one conditionally licensed vaccine, is that right?
That is correct. We've got a conditionally licensed vaccine at this time, so it's available, and some people are using it in sow farms as kind of a preventative or a protection.
What else can be done to try to manage the immunity of these herds?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, is inoculating gilts and getting exposed to it before they're entering into the sow farm. Of course, that immunity doesn't appear to be lifelong, so an older sow farm could become exposed to the virus and show clinical signs. It might be milder, but there still is not lifelong protection, it looks like, through exposure. So vaccine can help in those cases. But I think the best thing that most people are trying to do is, hey, if we can eliminate it from the farm, then what biosecurity practices can we put in place to keep it out? And I think that's the biggest effort that people are trying to do now.
Well, and that tees up the ball nicely for my next question. What have we learned about biosecurity specifically as it relates to PED? What could we be doing better?
Well, I think that the risk that we see is that in some of these pig-dense areas, the virus is circulating in finishing sites. And so as long as that's around, you have truck washes that can be contaminated, you have trailers that can be contaminated, you have people that can track it back and forth. And then times of the year where it's colder, the virus lives longer. So those are a risk. But I think it's really, can they prevent from dragging it back into the sow farms through biosecurity practices? The thing that I'm hearing as they do some biosecurity audits on sites is that we think we're doing a good job, and there's so many ways that people can make a mistake and have contaminated boots or shoes that wear into a unit and then it tracks into a unit. So the virus, as long as it's out there, the potential is there to drag it back into a sow farm through slack biosecurity or a mistake here and there.
Yeah, a veterinarian one time compared it to, it's kind of like trying to lose weight. You know, it sounds simple, but in practice it's really quite difficult.
That's right. It's an everyday type of thing. And when you have people coming and going into large sow units, you have multiple people entering every day, and that opportunity for something to come in is there. And it might only be one chance in 100, but that's all it needs.
Let's talk about feed, because people like Dr. Scott D. at Pipestone, he's done a lot of research showing that PED probably came into the country through feed and can certainly be easily spread that way. What precautions can we take to try to either keep the virus out of the feed or certainly keep contaminated feed from coming onto your farm?
Well, and I think one of the things that concerns people is when we used pig byproducts in feed, like in meat and bone meal or spray dried plasma. So could those products that get contaminated and then end up in a feed mill and then dispensed through a lot of different sites all at one time? I think that risk is going to be there. The other thing is a lot of times you have trucks traveling up and down roads. You have people, hauling in feed ingredients as well as moving livestock on the same road. So I think there's that risk, especially in the wintertime, the snow and wet and the ice, and I think that's a risk.
Now, normally with any kind of a virus, and I'm assuming PED is no exception, but when a herd gets infected with something like that, it's got to open up the door to some other secondary infections.
Well, yeah, and of course, PED in a naive herd is going to kill a lot of pigs, and then that's the ones that are able to live through it. Their growth is probably slowed down through the rest of their production cycle. But at those farms that they know what they have to do, if they can do it and eliminate that virus, and then it can be a short-lived thing, although it can be continuing to infect nurseries and finishing without killing a lot of pigs, but it will set them back some.
Do you feel like we're making progress against this disease?
I think we've made some good progress. I don't think we have all the answers to how we can keep it out of these farms. We probably could make some improvements with preventative measures, maybe with some vaccines, and so we're probably don't know enough yet. And as an industry, we probably haven't put our heads together and decided what we need to do long term. Like I said, either to eliminate it or live with it.